How's it going, Brodie?
Awesome, buddy.
How are you?
I'm excellent.
Brodie or Dr. Brodie Medlock?
It's whichever you prefer.
What do you prefer?
I like to keep it real. I like to stay with Brodie.
Yeah?
That's
I like Brodie. When I hear Brodie, I think of surfer.
a server?
A surfer.
Oh,
Surfer.
I don't know.
Like a hang 10 guy.
I think in Celtic it means ditch digger, so that's cool.
Are you Celtic? That's the second time you've mentioned that.
I am not sure, whether 23andMe is accurate or not. Who knows?
Oh, did you do that?
I did. I got it as a gift one year for my birthday.
So you might actually help somebody solve a murder one day. Because your DNA family tree's all
Who
out
knows?
there. Yeah. Have you heard about that?
I have not.
Crazy stuff. How they caught the Golden State Killer was with
Ancestry.
Yeah, they went on to an ancestry thing, and that's how they found it. I don't know a lot about the genetic stuff. I was just listening to a podcast, The Daily, and how they're wondering if that's like an invasion of privacy now. You know, that just getting someone's DNA without them even knowing about it.
It's like one of those things where it's like the good and the bad of everything.
I agree. I think that's a lot of...
everything contains some good, some
That's
bad.
everything. You know what I think we have a really hard time with? I think as a human race, I think we have a really hard time with the ability. Like, we can do a lot of stuff, but we never stop to think if we should.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't even know if you could predict a lot of the things that eventually happened from innovation.
You can't. I don't think anybody saw the internet coming and turning into this. Social media. Podcasting. No one saw any of this coming. This is a brand new media where you can do anything you want, and as long as I'm guessing as long as it's not pornographic or anything, but I'm guessing even then you could do that if you found the right channels. But anyway, what I wanted you on the podcast was because how I met you. You were at one of our special guests at CrossFit Carbon, where you put us through a warm up. And through foam rolling. But what you did was you added a technique that I never experienced before from other people that came in and would do a foam rolling and everything. You put us through, and now I think I got the term right, but I'm not 100% sure. You had us example, we foam roll our calf, and you basically had us do what was called activation after it to retrain the muscle that this is how you're supposed to work without any structural... help me out with terms.
So basically what I tried to do, whatever the terms might be, I call it stuff that people can understand.
Right.
It doesn't matter what
Which
you
is
call
another reason why you're here.
Yeah. So basically, a lot of people are familiar with things like foam rolling or using a lacrosse ball or your basic stretching, trying to, get rid of pain or be able to move better, especially in something like CrossFit where the demands are usually much greater than you would do in like your typical, we'll call it a global gym, right? Where you're like, hey, I'm going to do some bench press and curls and sit on a machine.
Chest, bis, and tries, brother.
Yeah, it doesn't require a huge amount of range of motion.
Right.
CrossFit's a little different because, sometimes whether you like it or not, you're overhead squatting, which is incredibly difficult and incredibly demanding. And for the first time in their life, people are like, holy crap, I'm really bad at this, right? All of us have gone through that at some point in something like CrossFit.
Right.
So, people are familiar with foam rolling, lacrosse ball, stretch. They're like, how do I move better? How do I not suck at this so much? Because that's, really for a lot of us, the overriding goal. Like, how do I suck less at this?
Right.
But what I frequently experienced as an athlete myself was like foam rolling, lacrosse ball. Those things they're a temporary stimulus to the body, right? I explain it like this. It changes the quality of the soft tissue. But since you're like the world's coolest living robot, right? You have to continue to use that higher quality tissue for your body to learn that, Johnny wants to keep this. Because most of what we do all day is what we're doing right now, right? Like we'll sit at a table, we'll sit in our car, we'll sit at our desk, we'll sit on our couch and watch TV or sit at dinner.
Or what's worse is now we're looking at our phones like this.
Sure. You're basically in what's called a flexion-based posture.
Flexion-based posture.
That means, you're flexed at your ankle, right? You point your toe, it's extended.
Yeah.
You pull your toe up, it's flexed. That's dorsiflexion.
Okay, yeah.
You bend your knee, you're flexed at the knee. You bend at the hip in a sitting position, you're flexed at the hip.
Okay.
When you're hunched over your phone, you're sort of flexed at the spine.
Right.
Right? You're flexed at the neck. So it's a flexion-based posture. Think about how babies are born.
Right.
What do they look like? Just like us,
Yeah.
pretty much when we sit all day. So it's a flexion-based posture. If you spend that amount of time, let's just say, in your typical day, we'll say roughly 12 hours. We'll say you sleep 8 because you're a great sleeper and you like health and wellness and you know it's important for recovery. And you got this 4 other random hours where you might be at the gym for a little while or standing up to walk to the bathroom or, hanging out, making dinner, whatever.
Yeah.
So about 12 hours of your time, we'll say, is sitting in the car, at a desk, on the couch, whatever. Your tissues in your body are constantly your best friend. They want to do what's right by you. However, the messages we send the body are, I need to be really good at this flexion-based seated type posture. So your body is like, cool, man, I'm on board. Like, let's preset those tissues in that shortened flexed position because that's what you do the most. Whether you consciously think that or not, that's what's happening. That's the programming you're running through your hardware. Does that make sense?
It makes it makes a ton of sense. It's just I've never thought of it that way,
right?
Which is exactly why I wanted to get you here. But I want you. I didn't even have you introduce yourself as to who you are, what you do for a living. So, quick little history of kind of what do you do, Brodie?
Okay, so I am a chiropractor first, and I guess by training. I like to say I'm a little weirder chiropractor than most.
Explain weirder. How so?
So I do a little bit. When I first started out, I did adjust, and I did, your basic sort of rehabilitative type exercises.
Yeah.
But you come to find out that, in my opinion, that is great. That is fantastic input to the nervous system. But I frequently found, at least for me, that I had to continually sort of deliver the same adjustments to sort of the same patients. Like their patterns kept coming up.
Okay, yeah.
And I kind of used to joke around like that movie The Incredibles when Mr. Incredible says like, can't the world just stay saved? I was like, that's how I feel with some patients.
Right.
Like, why am I having to redundantly do these adjustments to an SI joint?
What's an SI joint?
The sacroiliac joint, sorry. Or like a lower back adjustment.
Okay, thank you.
So that's your sacroiliac joint is like your hip and low back.
Okay.
It's, we all have different adjustments,
right?
Different tendencies and biases in movement. So thanks for, not letting me talk doctor too much. I frequently get caught in that trap.
No, that's fine.
But what I found was continually doing sort of like the same adjustments. Like you're a doctor because you want people to get better. You want people to go, aha, I've figured out how to take care of myself. I figured out what I need to elevate myself, to bring more life to myself, to move forward. And like you're half teacher, half doctor. They're solving problems, but you're also teaching people how to solve them themselves.
Right.
Right. So, and I was frequently finding that I wasn't doing a good job solving the problem, even though I thought I was doing a pretty decent job teaching people how to solve them themselves. It wasn't getting the resolution that I wanted. So when I was in chiropractic school, kind of going back a little bit more, I was exposed to a method of soft tissue. I call it soft tissue orthopedics, but it was soft tissue care using something called fascia, which when you use a foam roller, you're doing self-myofascial release, which means muscle, this other tissue called fascia, which you can think of as sort of like sausage casing around tissue.
Oh, okay.
And it's also so much more than that. It's almost like this. It's sausage casing on the outside of tissue. It's around every muscle.
Tissue, you're talking about muscles.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's around nerves, muscles. It's around bone. It's around ligaments, tendons. So it's literally soft tissue. It's the spider web that connects your entire body. Like if you could see a human body that was only fascia, it would basically look like a cotton candy humanoid replica of a human body. You'd be like, oh, that even looks like me. It looks just like a fascia. Yeah. It's like you made of human-shaped cobwebs. It literally would look exactly like you.
Wow.
That's how prevalent and pervasive this fascia is. It's literally the threads that keep your entire structure together. Yes, you generate power through things like muscles, but those muscles don't have any pull unless they have the scaffolding of this fascia. And if it's contained within this fascia, which has about the structural strength of titanium, like it's incredibly resilient and strong.
Wow.
So when you produce huge muscle force, like why doesn't this stuff just rip? because it's incredibly strong, and it's like this super strong netting, like Spider-Man's webbing.
Right. I was gonna say, is it? So it's. I mean, it's obviously very flexible, right?
Yeah. So I kind of explain it almost like viscoelastic. You know what
I don't know what
that term means. Like when you're at a high speed, it's very resilient, but when you move pretty slowly, it also deforms or changes shape fairly easy.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. That's fascinating. So I never knew fascia was like that, and it's funny when I talk to people in your profession that just is like the body this giant jigsaw puzzle that we're just discovering more and more and stuff about, or is it?
So here's the funny thing about knowing a lot about the body. The more you think you know about it, the more you realize you really don't know jack shit about it.
How much of that is real life though? I just feel like we don't know jack shit about like it all.
Like anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
we think we do. And
if I start branching into philosophical stuff, I think about like just the visible light spectrum, like the minuscule percentage we see of that, and then I'm like, extrapolate that into every area of everything.
I don't know what you said, but I love the fact that you said it.
And I
think you're going to educate me today.
How do we make it through a day with as little amount as we know? Is that how we can make it through a day? Anyway, but we do know incredibly little about everything.
Yeah. So back to the body, that for sure we're just finding out new stuff all the time.
Yes. And we've known, like I should say people have known. There was a lot of Russian science around fascia, like late 70s. I think, of course, it's kind of the fall of their, communism and, their information that came out after that and became more widely available. Physicians slowly but surely picked up on it. Fascial Congress slowly picked up on it. And now
Fascial Congress?
It's just like a collaboration of scientists and doctors who actually knew this existed,
like a think tank,
and started to explore it more, like sort of like the trailblazers for this whole thing. Like, everybody was like, "You people are super weird. What are you talking about? This doesn't exist." And now everybody's like, "Yeah, you guys were probably. Well, we're not going to say you were right, but like, okay, let's just start studying this cool stuff." And so we're finding out a lot about it now, and it's sort of expanding what we can do as far as like soft tissue work, and we can figure out like how truly effective this is at improving motion. Because with this fascia, I explained it like sausage casing and spider webs and confused the hell out of everybody, right? But if you imagine your muscles in your body, like we've all seen anatomy charts, and it's like, oh, look, it's really neat and like red, and like you can clearly see that's my bicep and my tricep.
It's not like that
when you actually look at a human body, like...
Have you? Like, I'm sure
absolutely.
Cadavers, right?
Part of medical school is, being able to look at cadavers and work on several different cadavers and...
Right. So you're digging into muscles and fascia.
And it all looks the same, and you have to you can see the fascia, and you're even peeling this stuff apart. It's almost like if you could combine cling wrap with something like a Velcro. That's what it looks like in the human body. And it's very tough and spider webby. Like it sort of sticks together, and we call these soft tissue adhesions.
So we're both fragile and tough at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what perspective you're looking at, but your body's incredibly resilient. I'll say that, given how fragile we actually are.
Well, I would think to the point that we can even make it, that we've made it this far in our existence. I'm talking about mankind. I think we're pretty resilient.
I think our sheer numbers have definitely helped that.
Yeah, I think you're right about that for sure. So you explained foam rolling. Is foam rolling the thing that kind of... So the way I'm interpreting fascia is it's all like this, and is foam rolling just making it like that?
Foam rolling is a way to
get all the
it's a way to get blood flow into the tissue.
Okay.
Like when you're making pizza crust, or you're making any sort of baked goods, and you have all these extra pieces of dough that you throw back in, and you get your rolling pin back out, and you sort of reintegrate it back into the big dough.
Yeah.
That's a little bit but like trying to get blood flow and get these tissues to relax, and you're changing the quality. Let's be honest, like the human body, with as far as muscle and soft tissue, is basically like meat. And I used to talk to my patients a little bit. Sometimes some of my mentors would hate this analogy, but I would talk to people on a scale of like tissue quality of beef jerky to thawed chicken. And when you don't move a lot, when you don't get motion and hydration, and we'll call it like nervous system input to the tissue, the tissue sort of dries up a little bit, right? It turns into a little bit more like beef jerky. right? They're very tough to move and tough to expand and contract, which is what a muscle does.
Right.
So when it loses hydration, it becomes a lot harder for you to sort of move and, let's put it in CrossFit terms, do a thruster or, do squats. You're like, man, why do I feel like I'm fighting my own body? Because you are.
For those of you that don't know what a thruster is, it's a compound movement of a front squat to a full overhead press.
Which you'll be sure to demonstrate anytime anyone asks.
Not really. I hate thrusters. I don't know anybody that likes them. Actually, that's not true. I know a couple people that like them, but I think they're insane. But
one of my team names for a competition was Thruster. I barely know her.
I like that.
That was
not bad.
We made the finals with that name.
Did you?
Yeah, we did.
So you stuck with it for a while?
We used it one shot. It was a one-shot name. But
okay.
It was pretty cool.
One and done? Okay. So here's my ultimate question when it comes to what I've realized as I've gotten older is that obviously I'm not 20 anymore, so I don't recover like a 20-year-old. But I guess my question is going to be a little mixed up in its message, but foam rolling, I've realized that not all of foam rolling, but recovery is as important, if not more important, than the actual workout. Am I right with that?
It's definitely more important.
Okay. So when we were talking about recovery, we're talking, we can go into diet, we can go into vitamins, we can go into foam rolling, mobility, as well as sleep, right? All those things contribute.
100%. All those things you listed, what those have to do with is creating an environment that's friendly to rebuilding. Right? Okay. Because workouts are easy, Johnny. How hard is it to go in and kick the crap out of yourself? It's not that hard.
Not that hard. And it doesn't take long either.
literally any caveman can go in and you wake up tomorrow sore.
Right.
What the real genius is, and how do I get I'm going to borrow a term here called minimum effective dose of exercise, just enough that I need to induce a stimulus for me to need to get better.
Right.
Without just beating the bejesus out of myself and being sore for 5 days.
I agree.
Right? If you only run a mile a week and you do a marathon, that's overkill. Right? But if you run a mile a week and you do a 5K, it's not exactly minimum effective dose, but it's a hell of a lot closer.
Right.
And you recover a lot faster.
Right.
So the first thing we need to do, most of us think, okay, I want to get in shape, especially when you're new into this, right?
Right.
It's whatever, January 1st, or it's soon to be summer, and you're really motivated.
Gotta
and
get that beach body.
And everybody goes, I'm going to start working out.
Right.
Which is kind of mistake one. Yes, you want to work out, but that can be the really easy part for you. What you really need to think about is, how am I going to set up things like my base, nutrition, which is going to be by far the most effective thing you can do.
Right.
Even if all you did was walk 30 minutes a day from your house to a park and back, right? Yeah. What you eat is going to vastly improve your recovery from any exercise. It's going to help your body de-stress on a hormonal level, like controlling insulin and cortisol levels, which, that's your sugar uptake hormone and your stress hormone.
Right.
Right? Food can definitely affect both of those hormones extremely influentially. Okay. Mm-hmm. What you eat can affect your sleep, or whether it's from a caffeine basis or.
So take out coffee and caffeine with that sleeping thing. What is one mistake that you would say the average person makes, even if they're disciplined to where they don't eat 3 hours before bed, but that's that last meal? What's the worst thing that they can, or what's the common mistake? Obviously, you don't want to eat cookies and milk and then go to bed. It's not good for you. But what is the one mistake that the average person makes that if they just stop that, they might get a better night's sleep? What do you think?
That's a hard question because that depends a little. The answer with nutrition is always it depends. Let's say you worked out at, you do your training after work and you worked out until 6:30. The whole 3 hour thing might not even realistically apply.
Okay.
But I would say that people probably, on the whole, unless it's a post-workout scenario, they'll probably eat, and this is not going to say carbs are bad. They might overeat on the carbs, or they might have some alcohol before they go to bed. Like you said, take out caffeine, but maybe people like a glass of wine before bed because it does.
Wine have caffeine?
No.
Okay.
But I was talking about alcohol.
I see. Okay.
So, but we're eating a really big meal with a high fat that takes a longer time to digest might be a mistake. But I honestly don't think there's going to be like a huge mistake unless you eat just like if you're not tracking your nutrition, you eat a huge ton of meat that's going to take a ton of time to digest. And when you're doing all that digestive work, when you're trying to create this relaxing sleep environment, that's a stress on your body, which is going to disrupt your sleep a tad. You may not sleep the entire night through. Sometimes people will drink a lot of fluids before bed and they have to wake up and pee, which again just disrupts
you out of
your
your sleep cycle. Right. Yeah.
Right. You're trying to collect consistent, staying asleep for as long as possible. If it's 8-9 hours, awesome.
Right.
But
so, I mean, we're in this. We've gotten to this nighttime discussion routine, and one of the things that I noticed on your Facebook account was that you put into terms kind of like your entire night routine. Can you go through that with me real quick?
Sure.
So what do you do? Like, so you get home at what, 6, 7 o'clock at night?
It depends. Yeah, we'll say 5, 6, whatever.
Okay.
Typically, I'll have dinner, somewhere between 5, 6, sometimes at latest at like 7. I do track my nutrition. I do have a nutrition coach. So that day's usually planned ahead of time. Maybe not the times perfectly, but what I'm eating certainly is. And I've had times where, I've had to eat up until 8:30 to get all, we'll say, macros in.
Okay.
I need that fuel, so I got to get it in. And if I have to do it before I go to bed, I'll do it. But so it depending on the time of year, obviously in wintertime, the sun goes down really early. I have some blue light lenses that I'll put on basically when the sun goes down.
Okay.
Right.
So let's talk about blue light lenses. What I've heard of this, and I'm not good at explaining things that I've only heard of. I need to really dig deep to understand. But it sounds like you know what you're talking about with this blue light stuff. So what is that?
So blue light is one of the things that when your eye takes in blue light, it excites your nervous system. It keeps you awake.
So the blue light that's right on us right now. Okay.
Yes. So ideally right now we would be wearing blue light lenses, but we're trying to stay awake while we're doing this podcast.
Right.
Okay.
So does that make you more sleepy because it cuts out the blue light?
So it's not that it makes you more sleepy. It's that your body's natural sort of circadian rhythm and natural like melatonin production can actually occur. It's not being interrupted by blue light.
Okay, and
you're
a lot
letting
of
your
people
natural
are stopping
system.
that by watching TV in bed.
Yeah, by having your phone on and by having the TV on, by even having overhead lights.
Okay.
Because your body is, as cool as we are and as advanced as we think we are and evolved, we're still like, not that, we're still just barbaric little people who live and die by the sun. And
well, it's funny you say that because I call myself, I'm just a monkey trying to figure this out.
you absolutely are right. We're basically like super advanced chimps. That's it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I use my blue lenses as soon as the sun goes down. Even in my house, my girlfriend and I are really good about not turning on overhead lights. We usually have like eye level lamps that are
interesting.
They're very low level light.
Is this fucking with you right now?
No,
okay, all right.
Like it's not like I'm a normal person too, and I'm in scenarios all the time where not everybody's a weirdo like me. And
no, I don't think you're a weirdo. I find it incredibly fascinating, actually.
I'm a big believer in like the 1% aggregation of gains. Like if I can make a change that'll make a 1% difference, I'm gonna do it because I know that I'm gonna make another change that's gonna be a 1% difference. And now I got 2.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do another one.
And that just creates momentum.
Yeah. And they're very easy to do. Like, I don't have to think about them. Like, I just put my lamp there, and I'm like, cool. So whenever I need light, I just turn that lamp on. Or I have my blue light lenses on. Like, what's that to me? Now I've got 2% things already.
Where can you get blue light lenses?
So I got mine from Felix Gray.
Okay.
They had the most blue light filtering on there. Like, sure, you can get like a $20 pair on Amazon, but...
Did you notice a difference right away? Like, the first day you got them? Did you notice a difference?
So it's hard to say. Like I've always been a really good sleeper anyway. Like fall asleeper.
Right.
I don't tend to stay asleep really well, which is one of the things I had to work on personally through the tutelage of my nutrition coach and this whole process that I've been kind of undergoing over the last year, especially. But I noticed that like I definitely fall asleep very easy now, like within 3 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And
That's
I stay
great.
asleep for a much longer time period. Usually I only get up once a night to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
And that's because I love water and I can't stop drinking it. And like,
That's not a bad thing to like,
Yeah, I mean, it's my one thing that if I could improve that and like not wake up, fantastic.
Yeah.
But I definitely do. I also, part of my routine is I do drink like a turmeric based gold tea.
Yeah, turmeric. That helps with inflammation. Correct?
It's a class of supplements called an adaptogen. And adaptogens, to put it sort of easily, hence the name, like it helps your body adapt to stressors by mediating a lot of the stress hormones in the body. Adaptogens are cool because they basically are like assess the situation. They go, okay, where can we be of the most use? Cool, let's do that. And they use a lot of like plant-based products or like plant-based, nutrients, vitamins that your body can sort of use naturally.
Okay.
So they're in a class of substances called adaptogens. Things like rhodiola or turmeric. Those are adaptogenic type things.
Yeah, I've been taking those lately, and I don't know but I'm taking them in the morning. Is that a bad thing to do? Take it in the morning? I take it with a daily dose of like fish oil and. No. Okay.
I mean, so it depends on what you're actually taking. Like some things, like your cortisol is going to be highest in the morning. That's actually what wakes you up. Okay. So if you're taking something to support like healthy like adrenal and cortisol function, awesome. Morning, perfect time. I used to do the same thing with things like ashwagandha, right?
What?
That's another adaptogen too.
Okay.
It's a plant-based adaptogen.
I think I gotta call you a bunch of times. What is this?
Yeah, we could go over this, and this is like what being a doctor is like too, talking to people about stuff like this all the time.
I find this fascinating because I don't think the average person does enough recovery. I think they think if they go to bed or if they're not in the gym, they're recovering. Right. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. I just I guess I have a question for my father-in-law, who doesn't work out at all, but the man is constantly moving. He is never sitting still. He's constantly moving. He owns a mechanic shop, and he also manages apartment buildings. So he's constantly going back and forth, back and forth. He's constantly moving. Would he benefit from myofascial release and would that help him in terms of getting up the next day and feeling a little bit better? Or is that more for the person that hits the gym hard or hits the construction?
Any human body that has physical stressors to it, even if it's just like you say your father-in-law's moving around a lot, maybe he's driving to and from buildings right. or in the car to and from the shop or whatever, we all have some soft tissue limitations, guaranteed. Even if you are like an elite athlete, like those guys and gals get tons of body work, tons of soft tissue work, tons of the adhesion release work, because here's the other thing. Even if you don't use it and you get sort of stiff and nasty and stuff sticks together, when you use it a lot, it gets inflamed, and that inflammation process of healing gets a little sticky too. So you constantly need this sort of movement is the big basis, because even when you're doing manual tissue release, what you're ultimately doing is moving the tissue. If there's one thing I want everybody to take away from whatever we talk about tonight, with all the confusing shit I've already said, remember that motion is the most important thing. And if more motion you can get to the more crevices of your body, those tiny spots at your end range of your shoulder, those tiny little corners of your neck rotation, very slow, in the same way that you could peel a price tag off a present you're giving to somebody, think of peeling apart your tissues in the corners. In some areas, like our hips, in the bottom of a squat, that's going to be super stiff. Or if you can't even like sit on sort of like heels to butt, in a kneeling position on the floor, and your knees feel like they're going to explode, or for a lot of people, your ankles and feet feel like they're going to explode, that can be improved. And motion is the only thing that's going to get you there. You producing motion. And you always have to start at a level where you're comfortably uncomfortable. It's going to suck a little bit to suck at moving in the beginning, but you're going to get a little bit better. And you're going to get a little bit better.
It's that 1% you're talking about.
Yes.
That just keeps...
In the key... Here's going back to the question about like starting to exercise. The key with this, improving your motion, improving your tissue quality, is frequency and keeping it at a level that's comfortably uncomfortable. So you don't hate it, so that it's easy to do in a very short time frame, because we all have a life.
Right.
You got kids and jobs and hobbies and a lot of other things we'd rather be doing than like stretching our psoas.
Right.
Okay, that sounds cool for about 3 days, and then you're like, it's January 4th, and you're like, I got this Netflix documentary I want to watch, so I'm going to skip the psoas stretch.
Yeah, right.
Well, if you can do something small while you do that, because getting back to my night routine, that's what I do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you said. I'm sorry. I don't.
I know we're kind of all over the place.
Yeah,
but
I don't mean to jump around, but that's fine. We're having a conversation. That's what happens.
Yeah.
So, I want to go back to your night routine again with the yoga. How much time do you do yoga? Because I do hot yoga, and it's funny. I can't imagine any other kind of yoga now, which I know is wrong, but it's just.
So I'm a big believer in. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Oh, of course not.
It just has to be what you can do. So.
Okay.
I have actually done hot yoga and love it as well. I've done the hour-long classes. I heard that interview with Tabitha.
Yeah.
So I love.
You should check her out. She's gonna. It's as close to a CrossFit workout as I ever thought I would have with.
I love finding things in fitness that I suck at, because fitness. I think all life, but fitness especially, is like what you're trying to do is you're trying to find things you suck at.
Right.
Because you're gonna get fitter by getting better at them. And if you're doing a bunch of stuff you're already good at, that's why you year after year after year after year after year look the same or worse. You're already good at it. Stop studying stuff for the test that you already know.
Yeah.
And start studying the stuff that you don't know.
I think a lot of people, there's comfort in what you're good at.
Sure.
You know, because you're not, a lot of people can't handle that process of, I suck at this.
Yeah.
And it might go all the way back to grade school, man, when you sucked or you didn't throw a ball as far as Tommy threw the ball, and now you're getting made fun of because you throw like a girl, and so instead of working at it, you're just never going to do it. And I don't know if that's implanted in us, and all of a sudden when we get to a gym, and there's a guy like you who's, deadlifting 485, I think I just saw your last Facebook post. Congrats, by the way, that's awesome.
Thanks.
But, and then you're right next to a guy like you who's doing that, and he's looking at the final result. He's not looking at the night routine. He's not looking at the diet. He's not looking at the time it took for you to get there.
Sure.
He's not looking at that process. He's looking at the end result and getting intimidated by, wow, I want to get there. And so some people, when they have that mindset of I just want to get there, they have that drill sergeant, I'm just going to ram myself into the ground until I get there.
Yeah.
And I think they get frustrated, or they get injured, or it doesn't go the way they think it's going to go.
That's the problem. So many people have, like you said it right, like you see things as they are currently.
Right.
But like you don't see things like a year ago, like I was talking to you before we started this, where I couldn't lift a barbell. I had a low back hip injury where I couldn't stand or sit in the shower. I couldn't find a place to sleep comfortably.
What'd you do?
I was doing some Olympic lifting, and I had my kind of global gym, and I was doing some snatches, relatively heavy, and I was snatching on like a turf type of thing because, at a global gym, you don't want to kill anybody like in the rack area or whatever. I caught my toe. Kind of awkward, and I tweaked my hip a little bit, and at the time it didn't feel like major injury. It was just like, oh, that's gonna hurt tomorrow. And
it really hurt tomorrow.
Yeah, it really hurt, and so I ended up with muscle spasming, like some sciatic type symptoms, some inflammation for sure.
Wow, okay.
Things where I was like, okay.
So it really set you back.
I mean, what's really So it taught me a lot.
You're right. That's a good point, because it's not like you're competing. It's not like you have to make the games, or you have to.
Was it the end of my world? No. Was I like a big baby about it and like, oh, it hurts for a few weeks? Yeah. But like, I always kid around, and I'm like, I'm a doctor, and I understand what's happening. I'm still a big pussy about it. Everyone's pain sort of feels them completely, if it's a hangnail or if it's like, a broken bone, whatever.
Right.
So, I just tried to do little baby steps forward to make progress.
Right.
And I sort of reevaluated like, okay, I suck at certain mobility limitations, or I'm trying to like ego drive myself into a heavier lift despite the fact that I know my right leg is weaker than my left.
Yeah, that ego's a bitch, man.
It is. And, that's a lifelong thing to kind of overcome and get over anyway.
It's funny, too, because I feel like, I don't know if this is why we start slowing down in terms of our thinking, in terms of, like, putting our ego on the side. Because when we're young, that ego is driving us hardcore. And I don't know if it's because we have that young body and we feel indestructible, and as we're getting older, we realize through our trials and tribulations that we're like, wait a minute, dude, let's pause here. I don't really need to lift this. I got to work the next week.
I think like as young people, we're just sort of like we're like a just launched guided missile.
That's a great way to put it.
If you know the way a guided missile works, like the guidance systems are consistently making these little reevaluations where it's like going a little too far right, okay, check back left. Going a little too far left, check back right. Like it's constantly making these little minuscule readjustments.
I didn't know that, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how the guidance system on a missile works. There's a good book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz who talks about this.
Who? I want to write that down.
Maxwell Maltz.
Oh, I put the pen away. Oh, no, I'll remember it. Maxwell Maltz.
We'll have it recorded.
Yeah,
so.
That's true. Maxwell Maltz.
But Maxwell Maltz, anyway, he talks about, like, people are basically guided missiles where we're like, here's how I think I'm going to get there. Oh, nope. That changed. Here's how I think I'm going to get there now. Oh, that changed. Like you said, your expectations are what fuck us up.
Right.
But we're human and we have time to, like, change those expectations. Like, this is why people don't need to fear failure. You need that. You have to have that feedback.
Absolutely.
Like, how many times in your life have you been right on the first shot? Like, maybe 5 ever.
Not only that, if you are, you don't appreciate it.
That's right.
As much as if you struggle. And sure. It's like an age-old thing that struggle is good. It's for real. I think that one of the greatest quotes that I never understood at the time, but I completely understand it now, was that Michael Jordan quote where he says, I've taken 5,000 shots or I've missed 5,000 shots in my life, and that's why I succeed now. Yeah. It makes total sense now. And I think if the one thing I'm going to imprint on my child is that, hey, go out there, take that risk, take that challenge, meet it head on, don't be scared of it. If you fall,
fail every day.
Yeah. I like that. Fail every day. Mm-hmm. I like that.
Multiple times if you can. Like that's why, even like entrepreneurs will talk about, like, when you're young, fuck it up now, because you're going to have a lot less damage and it's not going to be the end of you.
Right.
We have all this anxiety and fear about failing. So this is what getting into this topic now too. Like, this is what I loved about, like, I've been in fitness my whole life. So my YMCA in my little small town, Lansing, Michigan, where I grew up, you had to be...
Oh, you're from Lansing, Michigan?
You had to be 13 or older to work out by yourself.
You were Spartan.
So I grew up... I'm actually an Oregon Duck, but I went to Michigan State.
Okay. I like
for a little while. I actually grew up down the street from Michigan State.
Did you? Okay.
So between the two, if I root for, Michigan State or Michigan, I'll root for State.
All right.
I always say I bleed 2 shades of green. The Oregon Duck green and the Michigan State green.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
But in my little small town, like, YMCA, I used to beg my parents to, like, my dad in particular, take me with a Y. I wanted to go to the YMCA with him all the time to work out. I got certified as, like, a lifting instructor, my first personal training cert, when I was 13, just so I could lift by myself, right?
Cool.
Because I wanted, as we're little kids, most of us want to be like, I want to be strong and
you want to be Arnold.
I want to be superhero.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're just, and then you, as a growing boy too, you're like full of all this testosterone, and I want to, I'm getting stronger, and this is crazy, and like it's helping sports too. Weird. Yeah. At the time, I played soccer, football, basketball, bowling, you name it. So, getting into that and wanting to move and being involved in fitness my whole life, it's been the one place where you're looking to fail, you're looking to push, and that has
just... Did you have that view when you were that young? That's what you were looking for? You're looking to fail, you're looking to find your weaknesses?
So you're constantly looking for stuff that you can't do. So, like, what is athletics? It's constant failure and constant improvement, whether you know it or not.
No, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Does it matter?
Right.
I mean, you win sometimes. None of us has won everything we've ever done.
Right.
Right. So you're gonna experience losing.
Probably more than you're ever gonna experience winning, but
for sure.
Yeah.
Whether it's a day-by-day practice or going against the older guys on the team or getting cut, like I I had a sports epiphany when I thought I was a really good soccer player in my younger years. I was always the best player, one of the best players on my team. And well, I went to this tryout for the next level up. The first year I tried out for the next level up, I got cut. And I was surprised as shit.
Yeah.
I was like,
got that ego checked.
They cut me, and I was so mad. And so no, they don't want that. This is crazy. So-and-so made the team, and I didn't. Yeah. And I did that for probably a couple hours. And then I was like, there's only one thing I can do. I know where I was weak in some of these spots. I went outside and I lived out in the middle of nowhere. It was me and a bunch of woods and a creek and a wall. I grabbed my soccer ball.
Sounds like paradise for a boy.
And I went out to the garage, the back side of the garage, and kicked the ball against the wall and trapped for hours and hours. And I did that until the next year's tryouts. I played on my team again. I improved footwork and trapping skills, things I wasn't that great at. Because I've always been a stronger, faster, genetically blessed, but maybe overlooked some of the skills of sports. And that's when I was that's when it really hit me. The skills and the practice and the time and the 1% matter. Even at that age of 11, 12 years old.
I get that. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
And that's where I was failure sucked, but damn it, I learned a lot more there failing than I did in the other, because I played soccer since I was 5. Yeah. In the 6 years of being the best player on my team, I learned more in that 1 year than I did the other 6 years.
So, did you originally go into your profession with the idea of trying to max out your potential and then realized that, hey, I'd like to help people and I want to help them max out their potential too? Did it become and I could be wrong, but was your first goal I want to see what I'm all about, and then it opened up a door to...
My goal was, so I never wanted to be once I got to high school, and my dad was a college football player.
Okay.
And he was always when you get to, he's enjoy high school sports. It's really fun, and it's time to be with your friends. He was always don't take it too seriously. Yeah. Because my dad was a college athlete, and he knows what a job and business and wake up early, go work out, go to class.
Sucks the fun out of it.
If you really love the game, it doesn't. But if you just like to play, which I was a really diverse athlete, and I just never wanted to be left out of a game that people were playing, because I like to play. I like competing more than I like a sport.
Okay,
right?
I get it.
I'm not in love with basketball, but I'm in love with figuring out the scenario and how to beat a defense, or how to get my special talents of any 4 other players I'm playing with.
So do you look at the body like that?
I do. Yeah. I'm a really good editor of a situation or of a physique, and I like to pick out, okay, here's a weak point where you can stop leaking power or wasting energy or fighting yourself, and we can fix that. And again, that goes back to the 1% aggregation of gains. If I can fix 5% here, 2% there, we'll get your conditioning up. That's another 5%. We're already 12% ahead of the game. Cool. Yeah, you're 12% better, which is a huge number.
That's really cool.
So I'm good at that stuff with a lot of things, whether it's reading a rough draft of a paper somebody's written, or social situations, or...
Go into social situations. What do you mean?
Getting people to work together. I love to read, and I love to read a lot of things about behaviors and how teams work, and how to integrate skills, to maximize the team, because we're all, Joe Rogan says, we're all in this together.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I think there's a as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that I shouldn't say I'm realizing. I get this feeling that this is all connected. We're all connected somehow, some way. The whole earth is just connected. It's supposed to be just one big one big organism, and we're all little micro doing our part. And I think we fall into that sense of, I think the only difference between, or the only 2 species in this entire planet that outlive their area is us and a virus.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna fuck this whole place up.
You could you're familiar with the concept of fractals and fractalization, right? Where it's,
of course not.
It's fractals are basically geometrical shapes that could go for infinitum, like you could just go on and on and on. Like
Okay.
like when you saw Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Remember how he was like tunneling through like hyperspace, going just to
Yeah.
like, and everything was just
Going to fractals.
that's fractals.
Okay.
So you could take that same concept from like, I mean, you could relate a speck of dust to a person to a planet, the planet to the universe to the multiverse.
It's all connected, is what you're saying.
It's fractalization. So if you think of a cell of a human body as a cell, you know, you can extrapolate that out and say the Earth is the cell of the Milky Way galaxy.
Yeah,
The Milky Way galaxy is the cell of the
expanding
multiverse.
universe. Yeah.
So,
What do you
and
think
you're
about
and you're right
multiverse?
about the connection.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's within each of the tiniest thing is
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. No. I.
So yes, you're connected. We see differences, and like, you know, you're taller or you have brown eyes, and like I have blue eyes and I'm shorter or I'm bigger.
Right.
You can see those visible differences, but like outside of this personality we've sort of created to get through life, the essences are very similar, from, you know, the blind homeless guy you see in Chicago to Warren Buffett to, you know, somebody in Norway kayaking down a river. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The essence of people are probably like, I don't know, base level, pure, good, based around love, and we've just sort of created these personalities to get through our certain set of circumstances. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, we as we get older, we start to try to push aside our circumstances and find ways to connect to someone else instead of finding ways to disconnect.
I agree. So it's interesting you said disconnect. How do you feel about your father? How do you feel about social media and your kids? Where do you see that going?
So actually, there's a good book on this too called iGen. I actually read about that because I have a 15-year-old, a soon-to-be 13-year-old, and then a 2.5-year-old. A lot of people, you know, I listen to people get worked up about technology, social media in general, and one of the reasons I read that book was to try to get some perspective on, like, my kids have never lived without the internet. Like, the internet was essentially came out, what, 1993, 1994?
Yeah.
And my kids were born in, like, 2004. They don't know a life without the internet. I do. So to me, it seems like, whoa, right? Like, I remember...
That's a really good point. I never thought of it that way.
Of course.
That's a really good
point. And
point.
how could you? You don't live that life.
Right.
Which is why...
It's a really good perspective.
Which is why you shouldn't freak out too much.
Yeah,
our parents
panic.
probably freaked out about us.
Rock and roll, or I'm sorry, our parents. That's when rock and roll. That's when they started knowing rock and roll, right? And they thought
or
rock
TV
and roll was
or
gonna,
cable.
Yeah, it was going to take them right to the devil.
MTV was going to be the end of us.
Yes,
you know? Or
right. No, it's a
HBO,
really good point. I didn't think about it like that.
Sex on TV, sex in movies. You're going to
Very
So
astute of you,
it's
Mr.
literally
Medlock.
the same cycle of fear and like, oh my gosh, anxiety.
Yeah.
Just get rid of it, man, and like learn. And you're gonna still teach your kids the same base concept about what it's like to be human and what it's like to relate to yourself and then other people. Like, there's another great book, The Awakened Family by Shafali Tsabari. It talks about, like, we parent a lot of times about fear, right? Because you love your children,
Right. You don't
and
want
you're
them to
like,
get hurt.
oh man. But you know what? You have to get hurt.
I agree with that.
We
right
got
now,
hurt.
Right now, I'm struggling with because my little daughter's learning to walk. So as you're learning to walk, you're going to fall and stumble and slam into things, and I can see it happening. And there are some times where the dad instinct kicks in. I have to put my hand in there so the head doesn't hit the wall or something like that. But there are times.
Choose your battles.
Yeah, there are times where, like, I remember she was climbing up on a box, and the box is only about this high off the ground. And I saw that the way she was positioned, she was going to fall. And I said, you know what? She's on carpet. I'm just going to let her fall and figure it out. And I think that's the hardest part right now that I'm dealing with as a parent. And I can only imagine that keeps going. But you're right. It's that's that fail every day, you know, to learn and grow and get better. And
Just remember, man, you fell out of a tree, you broke your arm, you're alive. It's okay.
I didn't break my arm.
You know what I mean?
I was good at tree climbing. I didn't break my arm. I was
Like,
look at these limbs. These are monkey limbs, man.
I am so thankful for my parents, because my parents were very wonderful, loving, showed up for everything I ever had.
That's awesome.
Always there. but they're also a little crazy. Like my mom was like a motorcycle driver, like a professional clown.
Really?
Not as jobs, but just as like.
Oh, so you don't have a fear of clowns?
Not at all. But she let us be reckless. And like I told you, I lived in like the woods, and I had a pond, and I had a creek, and I had freedom to go out in the woods for 6 hours a day and do whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like go be an idiot.
Right. I know what you mean though,
but go experience things. You know what I mean? Like that's all we're gonna have. And if you don't ever let anything happen to your kids, how is anything ever gonna happen?
I agree.
To them?
I think maybe that's a big part of the snowflake problem we're having now.
I mean,
kids are afraid to get out in the real world. They're afraid to make a move.
I just put a new book on my reading list. It was something about the coddling of the American mind.
Oh, John Hyatt.
I don't know. I can't remember. I literally
Jonathan
just put it on
Hyatt?
there yesterday.
I think I'm.
But it was a coddling of the American mind.
Yeah.
I think is what it was called.
Coddling of the American mind, right?
Yep.
Oh.
Anyway, I think we got really far off my home.
No, that's all right. Sorry.
Home routine.
Yeah.
This is how all my conversations go.
No, that's again, this is conversation. There's no real way to go there. But I do want to talk to you about, what do you think of Tom Brady and that pliability?
Pliability?
Yeah, have you not heard of the Tom Brady method?
Mm-mm.
Where he believes in stretching out the muscles, like
so he's improving the elasticity or the quality of the tissue.
Right, so that, and it's funny because he goes through this intense diet of where he doesn't have anything that causes any type of inflammation at all.
Mm-hmm.
And defensive linemen have actually said when you hit Brady, it's different than hitting any other quarterback. He almost bends with it, with the hit, versus some like with Ben, it's just.
I know that Donovan and McNabb would try to do a lot of this too with actual physical stretching stuff.
Yeah, like it's so like for example, I know that like they're massaging his thigh and he's lifting his leg up and down, up and down, up and down the entire time they're doing it, and it's like this. He calls it pliability, and he's
that's what you get when you take this piece of meat. Let's go back to the piece of meat, right?
Okay.
You're essentially tenderizing this. You've had like this top level amazing steak that's so like tender and moist and the best.
Right.
And you've had these steaks where you're like, you get them at like a grocery store and you're like, yeah, they're all right. Like they're edible. What's the difference? The difference is in the pliability of the meat. It's super tough, so you got to tenderize it. Why? Because you want to get juice in there and hydration in there. It's the same concept with the human body. Oh. All he's doing is taking this connective tissue fascia, and he's making it more pliable.
So I thought, okay, after I read it, I thought, because he has a book called the TB12 Method, and I was reading it, and I thought, this just sounds like really like dialed in foam rolling. That's just what it seems like to me, or a really dialed in massage therapy.
Foam rolling is just what most of us can do at home or at the gym or at the CrossFit box.
Right.
It's easy access. It's like the dumbest thing you can. Not the dumbest. It's the simplest thing you can do.
Or it's the what is it?
It's hard to really mess it up.
Yeah, it's the what are those books you go in there? It's like philosophy for dummies.
Yes,
so it's like that.
But you're not a dummy for doing it because you're better than someone who just doesn't do anything. Right. But as an elite level athlete, we're talking about 1% aggregation of gains again. If you're Tom Brady, who makes a lot of money to stay alive and play 16 games a year, while massive dinosaurs are trying to kill him, then you are going to do as many 1% gains as you literally have intellectual knowledge of.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you can buy it, and your team's like, you better do it.
Right.
So if you're getting your blood drawn to see exactly what nutritional state you're in every week, to see what nutrients you might be deficient in, you're doing it.
Right.
If you have access to a myofascial therapist who can do this pliability in every spare corner of your tissue, you're going to do it. If you can go to bed at 7 p.m. at night and stay asleep because you have blackout shades and your family's like, you're our moneymaker, do it, even though Giselle's killing it too.
Yeah.
Then you're going to do it.
Right.
Especially if you're Tom Brady, who is a very, as much as I dislike Michigan Wolverines, as a team, dude's brilliant. I mean, he's on his game. You absolutely give him 1,000% props for, he's for real. Like, he wants every last second of a pro career that he can get.
I agree.
He's literally doing everything he knows possible to do.
Right.
And he knows, like, how long am I really going to play? Till I'm 45?
I think that's his goal.
Right.
Which is crazy, but
It's only crazy because no one's done it yet.
Right.
Because no one's gone as far as he's willing to go.
That's true.
Running a sub 4 minute mile is crazy too.
You sound like a Tom Brady fan.
So I'm just a fan of people pushing and doing more when they know they can.
Like, I agree. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Like Jocko Willink says, if you can do it, then do it.
Yeah.
If you think you can do it, then do it. Stop making excuses like, oh, I can't do this.
Right.
Devote your energy to thinking of a reason why you can. That was the best piece of advice my father ever gave me. He said, why do you always think of reasons you can't do something? Think of a reason you can do it. It takes the same amount of energy, and even if you fail, you still learned.
Yeah, that's a really good...
It's the same, situation.
Yeah, that's cool. So, that's great.
That's literally, if like, when I am like 99, my goal is to live to 120, and I
is that really your goal?
Yeah, I think the oldest living male has been like 119 or something in like 8 months.
You do it. I hope you do it. I'll have you back on this podcast.
I think by that
to celebrate your birthday.
With the technological curve we're going, if we survive and don't murder the planet, I think it'll be like sort of that altered carbon state of like...
Oh, the stems? Isn't that what it is?
Or just regenerative medicine in general. We're so close on that stuff. And
we're actually very scary close. In fact, I would bet you China's ahead of us.
Like, those are one of those things that I'm like, when you don't know what's going to happen in the future and you're worried about your kids, you're like, there's just so many things that are going to happen so fast. With virtual marketplaces where it's literally like Ready Player One. Yeah. Or with things like... With the advances in quantum physics, you're going to figure out like energy essences and what that means for the human body, or what you think of as essence or spirit or whatever, soul.
Yeah. It's
going to create some pretty big rifts. Whatever you believe is going to be challenged either way. So, things like that's altered carbon series like that, that's not going to be 100% maybe, but like it's not probably far off either.
Yeah.
Like transhumanism is a pretty big thing. A lot of us already partake in it with things like hearing aids like I wear, or if you get laser surgery on your eyes, or if you get like lenses implanted for cataracts, or you name it, pacemakers. Those are forms of transhumanism.
Right.
When you're getting like
Isn't
RFID chips.
Fake hip would be that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Glasses.
Yeah.
Something simple.
If
you're using technology, like, you're already there.
Yeah.
So you really kind of can't be against it. Like, my life would be jacked up without hearing aids or laser surgery. It would be a lot harder to be me.
You have laser surgery on your eyes?
When I was 19, yes.
Yeah? Was that scary? I've never...
Not at all.
No?
So, like, I literally...
You don't get scared, do you, Brodie?
No, I do. But, like, so when I was 15, I was shooting baskets in my driveway. It was really windy. I love sports, and I used to play catcher in baseball. Mm-hmm. And, like, Michigan, it gets pretty windy. It, like, all the dirt. It used to get in my eyes. I used to wear contacts trying to play football. Like, I was constantly battling, like, dirt in my eyes or sweat in my eyes. Or especially, I got contacts when I was 13 as a middle schooler and high schooler. And, like, the most responsible person ever. But I remember shooting baskets in my driveway being like, someday I'm not going to have to wear these stupid contacts that are frustrating the hell out of me every time the wind blows something in my eye, and have to go inside and put all these saline drops in. And I didn't know what it was going to be, but I was like, if I ever get the chance to not wear these, I'm doing it. And I probably 3 years later, I got this thing in the mail about the Windsor Laser Eye Institute and being able, I was farsighted. Most farsighted people can't do it.
Farsighted means you can see close.
I could see further away.
You can see farther away, but you
I could
can't see close.
Not that great.
Oh, okay.
Like, if I could, like, I was great at playing basketball with no contacts or glasses because the hoop was far enough away.
You just stayed at a certain
further
distance.
Back I shot, the better I got. So it's great for my 3-pointer.
There you go.
But I got laser surgery when I was 19 in Canada before it was legal in the U.S.
Wow.
Because I was like, I'm in Michigan, like an hour and a half drive.
Yeah, I know, but that's just kind of.
You
weren't scared at all. Like, you weren't thinking, like, well, what if they fuck this up? I'm gonna be blind.
I mean, no, not really.
No,
I guess I was stupid enough at the time as a
19,
kid.
Yeah, you're like, let's do it.
And like, I'm smart enough that, listening to the doctors and stuff, I was like, oh, this could really work. Like a corneal reshaping, the way that they're talking about it, like, that's cool. I get it. I get the geometrical, like the way that you reshape the cornea and how the cornea is some of the fastest healing tissue in the body. I'm like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Your cornea is some of the fastest
regenerating tissue in the body.
Really?
Like, you get like a scratch on your eye, like usually a couple days later, you're good to go.
Is that why it's so sensitive? Or is it just because
there are a lot of nerve endings in there? It is painful.
Yeah.
But for sure. So I was more than willing to do it, wearing Coke bottle glasses and irritating contacts. I was like, sign me up, let's do it. Yeah. And it did hurt. It, like, when I first got it done, like, it was a long night of me wearing blue blockers, and it kind of felt like, battery acid in your eyes for a night. But I woke up the next day and I was like, the light kind of hurt my eyes, and I was like, oh my God, I can see.
Oh, really? So it was a quick recovery.
Oh yeah, you only do like one night in a hotel, and then you go back the next day. And basically, your tear ducts are kind of jacked up for a few weeks, and you have to put eye drops in every so often, like every couple hours. That's it.
Wow.
22 years later, I'm still good to go.
Yeah? Yep. 2020?
So I have a little bit of astigmatism that'll never go away. That's a little bit of, like, tough to focus, blurry vision.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Cool. So, going back to recovery, how do you feel about CBD?
I actually take CBD.
Me too.
Yep. I take a 1,250 milligram CBD. Before
I take 5 drops.
So mine's like a 1 milliliter dropper full at 1,250 strength. So you can get like 250, 500.
Right. I think 1,000. I got the 250.
Yeah, I get the strongest one because I'm a big dude, and
Well, I didn't know what I was going into. There wasn't. I had to read up a lot about it. Because I know there's a lot of people out there, like, I had to convince my in-laws that it wasn't marijuana.
You're like, it's THC free, relax.
Yeah. And they were like, THC, that's, they didn't understand. So
that's the thing. That's what's crazy to me is how much, like, we've already talked about 5 subjects where people just don't understand.
Right.
What the hell were we doing in all our lives? What were we understanding?
Right. Yeah.
Geometry? Algebra? What the hell were we doing?
Yeah, you're right. That's a
so
good point.
You don't know, and like, what do you think? What do you actually know how to do?
Yeah.
Because no one taught you how to balance your checkbook. That's for shit's sake.
Right, I know.
No one taught you how to cook. That's fucking obvious.
Yep.
No one taught you how to build a business. That's fucking obvious.
Yeah.
What were you doing?
Yeah.
You were literally being babysat through school, learning jack shit.
Yeah. Memorize this. Memorize this. Memorize this. Yeah.
I this sounds terrible to you, but I'm not a huge, with my kids, like, huge, you got to do well in school. No, not really. Like, I'm a huge, like, if you want to know something, you better go fucking learn it. You can't depend on other people to teach you these things, because largely,
I like that approach.
Largely, whatever you learn, aside from your basic reading, math, alphabet, the world's going to change anyway.
Absolutely.
You go to university, shit's out of date.
Yeah.
Like, aside from some basic principles, like, I went to school and medical school because I wanted to be a doctor, and I had to.
Right.
Many, 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 many things. And this is kind of some Gary Venus out there. You don't have to do that. And you can probably save yourself a whole lot of, hellish student loan debt if you don't.
Yeah, there is that debate right now that I think is, it's absolutely, school is, I feel like right now the school system is failing. I talked to a friend of mine who knows a lot about charter schools and how the educational system is completely different there, and they're actually getting positive results with that moving forward. So yeah. I think the tide's turning. I just think it's super slow. But yeah, college is kind of a scary thing of should you not? Do you want to? Maybe that's another part why so many snowflakes are living with their parents is because they have to pay like $150,000 student loan.
I mean, if I lived near my parents, especially like, I don't know why you get such a bad rap for living with your parents anyway, which is how we used to live before, really, like the more modern times. You said
there has to be a limit to that, though.
I mean, why? I mean, in a lot of other countries that aren't the U.S., like, that's how families live. Like, I talk to some of my families or my patients that come from places like India. The families live together and they take care of each other. And
wait a minute. You have a good point there. Though I'm talking about the people that just hang out in the basement and they're still acting like they're 16.
That's America, though. Like, that's
right. But that's what I mean by snowflake. Yeah. I'm not talking about. I don't know what's going on in Europe. I don't pretend to know what's going on in terms of that. But you are right. Family is a lot more closer in terms of, okay, now it's time to take care of mom and dad, or I help her out around the house, and
people finding motivation to find their purpose, and whatever you want to say, whether it's making money or not, or just making a difference to other people's lives in a positive way. Yeah. Yes, do that for sure.
Yeah.
And like, you'll probably end up making money off that because people value that shit. But anyway, getting back to cannabinoids, how we got off this, like, just saying, like, what do people know?
Right.
yes, families that are like, oh, marijuana. I mean, like, it's actually hemp anyway.
Right.
It's not really marijuana. Like, it's THC free.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of receptors in your body that I wish you knew about that are called cannabinoid receptors that are probably some of the most plentiful receptors you have that affect multiple systems in your body, which is why it helps so much with sleep, because it eases nervous system, your central nervous system, your digestive system, a lot of the hormone systems. So you have two general parts to your nervous system. Right. Most people know this, like your sympathetic, like I'm awake, I'm on alert, which is what we do all day, like perform.
Right. Yeah.
And then your parasympathetic, where it should be a healthy enough parasympathetic system where you're like, I can chill and not like freak out and think about, the 75 things I have to do, and I can fall asleep easy, and I don't have all this tension in my tissues. I don't get headaches, and you should be flexible enough to move back and forth between those systems when needed. And we all know that life is pretty strange and crazy nowadays, and you're largely in sympathetic state.
I think it was strange and crazy forever.
But all these things that I do, like blue light blocking lenses, yoga, where I get to relax and do the opposite of what a CrossFit workout would do for me.
Right.
Or I take in things like adaptogenic turmeric gold tea with, they actually have a bunch of like Reiki and chaga mushrooms in them too, which are what these things are, is they're parasympathetic supporting elements where they take my relaxation and rest part of my nervous system and go, you're a good boy. Like, let's go
so
out and
they
like
calm you down,
show your personality and like spend some more time with us. It's a way to nurture that side of your nervous system.
Calm yourself.
Yeah,
from the anxiety of life. Yeah.
It's I think of it as strengthening your ability to relax. That makes sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Because
I like that.
We're really strong at being fucking like responsive.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you need to chill too.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that.
It's just like working out. Like kicking ass is easy. It's recovering that's hard. Yeah. It's the same. It's fractalization with your nervous system. Kicking ass is easy. It's instinctive.
Yeah.
Relaxing and realizing like, you're in your man cave and like you can chill and like read a book.
Right.
Like that's another thing I do. I read a book for 30 minutes before I go to bed.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about two books that I was really interested in that I saw that you read. I did some research on you. The Book of Five Rings. I tried listening to an audio version of that and I was lost within the first 5 minutes.
There's a lot of different versions of it, and the one I actually found from Jocko Willink's podcast when he had
number 80. I was listening to it today.
The guy who he's like the Japanese guy who actually translated, because there's a lot of like Japanese language is very strange, and there's a lot of different ways to take small characters and translate them incorrectly that really alters the meaning.
Really? I didn't know that.
Their language is not like English.
I know it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not like English. It's not organized the same way. So to have a really good translator makes a really big difference.
Okay. So
I literally got the copy that this guy recommended, because I tried to read the Book of Five Rings before, like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck is this thing?
Yeah, okay. All right.
And
good. I thought it was just me.
And we take it really seriously. Like it's a warrior's mentality and it's the art of war. And it's really like, it's just a hero's journey, almost like parable for the Japanese culture. It's not like a serious thing. Like we always have to make everything so serious. Like the way we view it is not the way the Japanese culture views it. Like, okay. So, it's just a story about a guy, whether embellished or not. It's maybe a little bit Hollywood. Yeah. But it's about a warrior culture who pushed to, better himself, much like Tom Brady.
I was just going to say, so he sounds like he's searching for that 1%. He's looking for that extra 1%. Yep. I like that. The 5 a.m. club. This is something that really interests me because I tend to wake up early whether I have to go to work or not. I'm just a morning person.
Yeah, same.
So what's the 5 a.m. club about? Is that just kind of maximizing that time of the day?
Yeah, so they have like different segments. It'll talk about like spiritual, emotional, physical. They call it like heart time. I forget the actual terms. I only read it once so far. I listened to it on audiobook. Yeah. But it's essentially within that hour of time doing 3 20-minute blocks of like mental, spiritual, physical, where the first thing you do is get like a 20-minute like workout in where you're actually sweating a little bit. Why? because that wakes your system up, your nervous system up. And then you're spending a little time after that doing heart time, or maybe you're meditating, or you're writing in a journal. Like I have a journal called a mind journal that asks me specific questions. I do really good with prompts, where if you give me like a sentence or a phrase and I'm like, cool, what's that mean to me? So I use a mind journal for that.
Okay.
And then after that, it's, learning something, intellect or knowledge. Maybe you're reading a book or you're listening to a podcast on a certain subject. But taking those 20-minute blocks for an hour of time every day, 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. Mm-hmm. Because, most of us, I have kids, I have a job, I have responsibility, I have a girlfriend, I have other people in my house that essentially after 8 a.m., my time's gone. Yeah. Right. So, and I've always been an early morning person where I get up at 4:40, 5 o'clock every day. Right. I like to get my gym time in before anybody gets up. I like to journal. I like to meditate. I like all that stuff. And I wish I could do that all day, every day. Yeah. But it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Meditation. I want to go back to that. So, actually, what's the difference between meditation and journaling?
So meditation is so meditation is not like a thing. It's just, where can you just be with you, and where can you reflect easily and gently on whatever, without going, oh my gosh, I have to go finish this report, and my wife needs this, and
so the art of doing nothing.
So I can even meditate while I work out, because I have music that I like. Mm-hmm. I'm very focused, and my mind is calm. It's not 7 different directions. It's on what I'm doing. That's really what meditation is. It's what's my one focus right now? Right? And you can
I see. I get that with yoga. I get that with hot yoga, because I have to focus all of my energy on
that's meditation. And that's why yoga instructors, or people who love yoga or love running, that's why they love it. Because it's that one thing they have to focus on.
And everything falls away.
Yes. Yeah. That's your runner's high, or your yogi's high. Yeah. That's your lifter's high. Because even when you're in the pain cave in CrossFit, that's what they'll say. You tunnel and you just lose everything. And you can be
Do you think that's why people search out those type of exercises, to get to that point? Because it's the one time that their mind is calm?
I think that's why people search out a lot of different things, not just exercise.
Is that what we want, Brodie? Do we just want to be calm? Or do we just want to be...
I think we want to be balanced, because I
agree with that.
I think that people think of themselves as one person, or one, I have to be like that. No, you don't. You're a multitude of eyes. You are not made up of a singular eye. You make different decisions based on circumstances. That's being human. Sometimes you do want this thing, and other times you're like, I don't want that thing. That's everything. You're trying to find balance. Here's how I think of the human body, right? We'll talk about change is the only constant. We'll sort of start there with that generic, whatever esoteric term. The human body, just from a cellular turnover standpoint, cells growing and dying, you're constantly turning over cells. Yes. We know that there's constant motion within that turnover. So essentially, if you think about it, you are a fountain of human cells, just continually spilling over and bubbling over.
I was going to say
the same way you shake up your Pepsi or your Coke or whatever, and you open the top and it spews all the bubbles. Mm-hmm. You're a slow motion version of that from a human cell standpoint. You are a fountain of life. Okay. Constantly changing. Yeah. But you're kind of keeping this thing sort of self-contained. That's what I think everything in life you're trying to do. You're trying to experience all this thing has to offer, but not get so fast into it that you just explode and give everything away. Yeah. You're trying to also go, whoa, I need to recover. It's balance. You know what I mean? The hardest thing about life is sort of realizing all there is to do and keeping yourself contained and relaxed enough to do it.
That makes a lot of sense, because I feel right now that's what I'm struggling with, is the idea of I want to be balanced. So I'm focused on, I need to be balanced, but then I get obsessive about things. I get obsessive about preparing for a podcast, or I get obsessive about, oh, I want to hit that lift, or well, I got to do everything to hit that lift. Or I get in these moments where I'm laser focused, and then I realize, whoa, you're too laser focused on this, and you're dropping everything else. Like you're dropping spending time with your beautiful daughter, spending time with your wife. And so then I try to catch up, and I try to do that, and it never seems like it's balanced. It always seems like more percentages over here, more percentages over here. So I think you're absolutely right. I think
we're constantly this amorphous blob that just moves, and you're like a little bit over in career, a little bit over in hobby, a little bit in family.
Right.
That's it, man. Like you're going to be this self-contained amorphous blob. Like that's okay, because you sort of need to stretch and find the boundary and learn. And then you're going to be like, cool, I need to stretch over here and learn about like my wife and my kid. And then you're like, I need to stretch and grow in my career. You need to stretch and go as an athlete or mover or self, or you need to stretch and grow and try this book out. I don't know if I'm going to like, it's okay. Yeah. Like you're sort of this amoeba like thing. You're just,
I think you're right. I think there's too many times we try to fit ourselves in a box.
For sure.
And like, this is how I'm supposed to be, because this is what I'm supposed to do. And
it's the expectations thing you talked about.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Like so I'm really, like, I used to say I'm really like bad planner. Yeah. And I'm a great adapter. Like because I can edit and I can see and I can sort of plan, and I guess I said plan, but like I can sort of, as circumstances shift, I can adapt. I'm a really good adapter.
Okay, I get that. Yeah.
And I can see maybe the next couple steps. But I have a real hard time counting on a long-term plan. Like, this is how it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why we all like to think we've been successful. And I'm like, how has my life turned out so awesome? Like, I recently turned 41. And I was like thinking, I'm like,
you look great, man. You look like you're 32.
Thanks.
Like,
whatever
you're doing, it's working. So
I mean, I've just been really lucky and good genes, and I like to do healthy stuff. Like, I don't drink a lot. I like to like go to bed early. I don't.
Speaking of drinking a lot, I wanted to also get back to the CBD. Sure. Right. Cannabis is going to be illegal next January.
God, everywhere soon, hopefully.
So, where are you in that in terms of recovery? How do you think that?
So I think it's like a fantastic way to use.
That's right.
Fantastic way to use those endocannabinoid receptors.
Okay.
In all of your different systems to, when we talk about like recovery, like one of the main things we're talking about is controlling like stress hormone levels,
right?
Or because the hormone levels are really what drive every other physiological action.
Yeah.
Whether your insulin's driving like glucose uptake, and your cortisol levels are allowing your stress levels to decrease enough to the point where your nervous system gets a break and you can actually go to sleep without waking up every hour and a half.
Yeah.
So CBD is going to be a fantastic piece to add to recovery. Let me just say that. Get THC free. If you like to smoke weed, whatever. Like, go for it, I guess. Like, for me, that's not going to help me recover if I want to eat like half an Oreo pie.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's also, you're probably not going to die from smoking weed.
Right.
But CBD in general, THC free especially, go for it. I mean, they have ointments, they have tinctures, they have...
There's a great store in Hoffman Estates that is just, they have everything there. Yeah. Everything you can think of. Creams, edibles, whatever, however you want to get your CBD in. But here's the thing that I don't know if you've noticed it. The first time I saw CBD being sold is at Family Video.
They still have those open?
Yeah, which is crazy to me. But yeah, they have a bunch of them open still. But it's being sold, and I thought, I don't know if I trust that. Like, I don't know if it, like, is that government regulated? Like, how is it there? You're gonna go there. I guess it's a relaxer, so go in there, rent a movie, grab some CBD, relax. But
it's gonna be like supplements where you're gonna have to figure out and go,
what's the right protein bar versus what's the wrong protein bar. I guess
you have a hard time with this too. Like I was lucky enough to get my CBD stuff recommended by my nutrition coach, who had been through the process of high quality CBD, because the guy who actually runs the company that I have my nutrition coach through actually has this PhD in a couple different disciplines having to do with nutrition and biochemistry.
Really?
So I was like, oh cool, well he's already done it. Neat.
Okay, so you got lucky with it.
But it's going to be like any other sup eventually, because people make money off it, and they're going to exploit the market, and you're going to have to be a savvy consumer. And some of us are savvier than others. Like,
yeah,
whether it's medical care or mechanics or
that's true.
You know, what video store you actually rent a VHS from? I don't know. You know, you're gonna have to.
It's
Sorry,
gas
people.
stations now,
You're
too.
literally gonna have to like read and explore. And
you mean you're gonna have to be responsible for your choices?
Yeah.
My God, what kind of crazy talk is this?
You're not gonna be able to rely on hearsay and word of mouth all the time.
All right, so I want you to vent a little bit. Tell me about the Spartan race.
So, this is the funny story. Like,
yeah, I want to hear about this because what's funny is my sister and I were actually going to go to that event, but things happened, we couldn't do it.
So I have done tons of obstacle course races, and I don't like mean to like be like fuck you Spartan, but like so I've done
Spartan.
I've done, and it's not like I don't want to be. So I had a buddy who actually messaged me on Facebook when I put that post on there about how shitty of an experience it was, and so originally the process started. I wanted to sign up for the Spartan Sprint because my kids came into town the weekend before that.
Yeah. And
my daughter's very athletic. She loves to compete. And so I was like, oh, cool, there's a Spartan coming. It's not far away. I live in Gurnee. So I was like, oh, it's like a 40-minute drive to, you know, essentially Richmond, Twin Lakes area.
Yeah.
No problem. It was like the weekend after they got here. And I wanted to run it with my kids, the Spartan Sprint. It was supposed to be like, 5K and 20-some obstacles. Cool. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
You know, they'll both be able to handle it. So I signed up my son and I first. And then I tried to sign up my daughter, and I found out, the age limit is you have to be 14 or above to compete in the actual Spartan race. Otherwise, you have to do like this kids race. So I was like, shit. And I already signed up my son and I, and you really can't get your money back. You have to sort of transfer race to race. I'm like, well, I wanted to do it as a family. Like, that would be a fun, you know, family bonding time activity.
Right.
And so I tried to switch the days or whatever. And in doing so, I accidentally, this is my fault, switched to a Super Spartan.
Oh.
Which is like the 8-mile, 27 obstacle. And I was like, oh, that's fine. Like, I've done way worse stuff than that. Like, you know, I'll let my son set the pace. My daughter can run the kids race. No big deal. And I told my son, he was like, yep, fine. Right. Like, I was like, no matter what, bud, like, we're going to get through this. You know, like, we might be really sore. We might be crampy. We might be bleeding. But this is what. So I really wanted like my son's 15. I really wanted to have like a rite of passage sort of manhood type of ritual, you know, like
I get it. Yeah.
We all as teen boys want that. That's what we're looking for.
Right.
And we talk about snowflakes. We don't have enough of those now, right? We don't, kids are looking for those. Like, they're doing stupid shit because they're trying to prove themselves,
right.
Like whether they know it or not. And we talk about failing, and that's how real confidence is earned when you fail and you go through adversity. I wanted to go through that with him. And if I experienced it and he experienced it, I wanted him to see that I experienced it too.
Yeah.
There's
so
some of the obstacles.
You guys bond over struggle for sure.
Yeah, there's some of the obstacles I can't do either. It's okay.
Yeah.
Let's keep fucking going
until
we're done. So I wanted the Spartan race for that. And I you know, I've listened to Joe DeStefano talk many times on podcasts about how he built the Spartan race. And, you know, he as an individual, and all of these people as individuals who work the race, whatever, I'm sure are great people. But long story short, the race day logistics were fucked up.
Yeah.
So I read all the stuff
on there. Lot, don't they? Don't they hold it in Richmond a lot?
So yeah, it's not like they've never been there. It's probably, I don't even know how many years in a row. So they say to get there an hour and a half before your heat to have plenty of time to get through registration. We got there for 11:30 heat at 9:40. I'm super early all the time.
Yeah, me too.
You know, so we get there at 9:40. You could tell already when you got into the parking area that it was a clusterfuck. You had school buses running. It took us 2 hours to get on a shuttle to get over to the course. So we're already 10 minutes behind our scheduled heat time. It takes another hour to get through registration and bag check. You know, so it's already 12:40, and my daughter's heat was at like 12.
Bag check.
You know, you got your gear.
No, I've never done one.
So you have it's muddy as fuck, man.
I get that.
And so you're going to be sweaty, muddy, whatever. So you want to have some clothes, and they have like a wash station you can rinse off on.
Okay, all right.
Like I said, I've done many of these mud obstacle things, and this is the most. The race itself very enjoyable. It was the best, like one of the second best race obstacles and like movement wise through the course that I've been through.
Right.
Most of the time you go to like Warrior Dash or whatever these little races are where you're kind of standing in line to do the obstacle, and like it's not the fittest population ever who wants to participate, and they just kind of bypass them and walk around them, and you're like, well, why don't you go run a 5K down the street? Yeah. This was not like that. Okay. This was like a legitimate, like, you got to do this shit or you got to do some burpees. Either way, it's going to suck. Yeah. So the race itself, great, but the waiting for the bus and then the 3 hours where by this time you really haven't eaten or drank, like had much to drink either, which means from an energy standpoint, when an 8 mile race in hydration, when it's kind of hot and muggy, you're fucked. Yeah. So you wasted 3 hours of just who knows what the fuck you were doing, waiting for a bus and standing in line. We go through the race, 6.5 miles in. They take us off the course due to weather. Sure, I don't want to get struck by lightning either, right? So I get that. They're like, hey, go down the road. Well, the way they made us go, you don't get to cross the finish line either, which means you don't get a shirt, a medal, a fit aid, a banana, any of the shit you should get when you're done. Yeah. After, I could care less. Like,
I know what you mean, though.
The last thing I need is another T-shirt and a medal. Like, I give a shit. Yeah. But my 15-year-old, who really doesn't do that much athletics, like he runs cross country.
But not only that medal, whatever that medal's worth to whatever, to him, if he's looking at that when he's 30, he's gonna go, oh, I remember this day with my dad. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. So I get that. I get that having that little.
And the best thing was, symbol. John, he didn't complain a fucking single second the entire time. Not a breath.
That's awesome.
I was so proud of him. It was so fantastic. Like literally the best thing I got out of it was just watching him try and did a lot of the shit that I was like, damn, that was impressive. And like didn't complain. He was so tired on the way home. He literally passed out in the car. Yeah. We got a bunch of food.
So you still got a good experience. It was just
I had a good experience with my family.
Right.
But because we fucked around for 3 hours, we didn't get to finish the race. And after that, they were super rude. They were trying to get us to like get shelter. Well, the rinse-off station is a big fucking tent that's actually covered on all sides that you can like sort of rinse off and shower because you're covered in like farm field manure mud.
Right.
And you've gone underwater in these things, and it's in your ears. It's everywhere. And you have an hour drive home with 3 stinky ass people in the car.
Yeah, you don't want that. Yeah.
And so we're trying to get into this tent, and this dude's super rude, like, oh, go find shelter. And I'm like, man, it's a big fucking tent with like, that thing doesn't even have walls on it. You want me to go under there? It's like a food tent.
Yeah.
So I'm like, twice trying to get in there, and this guy's like a total dick about it. So long story short, like, driving home when you're muddy like that, and then they're like, hey, you don't get your finisher shit, and I'm like, you made us get off the course. It's not like I was quitting. We had 40 more minutes before we were done.
Okay, so they just kind of gave you a kind of a hey, we're closing shop in the middle of it.
Yeah, and it was kind of like, oh, you can come back tomorrow and do the race. Come on.
Yeah.
And like after the experience I had, like I really want to come back and do this again.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not like I punch people in the face. I'm not going to overreact, but like that experience, like if I had consumed that at a car dealership or a personal trainer or a doctor, I'd be like, or a dentist, like, would I go back? No.
Yeah, you're right.
That's all I'm saying. And like my buddy who messaged me and was like, hey, I have a friend who works up there. I'm like, I'm sorry, but if it was you and I love you too, I'd tell you to fuck off and I wouldn't have your service anymore. Like, that's just being a consumer. Like,
no, I agree.
I go to the movies and like half the screen's fucked up and the popcorn tastes like
you're right.
Tastes like it's been stink palmed.
Right, or they're out of popcorn.
It's not, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Whatever. Like I don't like to bitch and complain, but like I wanted people to know that it like this was a shit show. Yeah. And like it wasn't that great.
But hey, you got a good memory out of it.
I did.
You struggled. You built some character.
We did.
Yeah, that's cool.
It was
good.
fun.
That's good.
Like the race itself was great.
Yeah,
I would do. I mean, I've done many.
A lot of uphills, downhill. Like is just a bunch of.
This mud. Was like ankle deep mud or deeper the entire time. So it was like suck your shoe off. Like you literally had to point your toes in the mud in order to keep your shoes on.
So what kind of recovery did you do for that?
So that was a lot of the normal stuff, and then a lot of extra yoga. I definitely got sleep like a mofo. So I'm a big believer in like moving in light ways too. Like I'll go to the gym and just
move a bar around.
like an assault bike, like real light for low heart rates. I'm big on nasal breathing on those days, getting oxygen delivery to the system.
I'm just starting to work with that whole nasal breathing, only breathing through your nose.
Yeah, there's a good book called The Oxygen Advantage.
I was listening to Laird Hamilton.
Laird.
Thank you.
Gabby Reese's husband.
Laird, yeah. And he was talking about how important it is to breathe through your nose because eventually it gets stronger and you get more oxygen through your nose in terms of how it almost like a pure...
It's filtered, it's moisturized. Yep.
Yeah. I didn't realize that.
You'll be less thirsty because you're not drying your mouth out.
Yeah, because for years I was the fall and spring allergy guy, and I trained myself without trying to breathe through my mouth because that's the only time I could breathe when I had these allergy attacks. Mm-hmm. So I ended up, so I'm constantly in yoga. I'm constantly trying to use my
sometimes I'll do like the one nose covering and breathe through the other.
Yeah.
Master breathing, I think it's called, or master breath. Anyway, yeah, that's a great one. Like, go read The Oxygen Advantage. I think it's Patrick McLeod who wrote that one. That's a great book.
How many books do you read in a month?
So I have Bluetooth hearing aids, so I can listen to Audible books. I could listen to one right now while I'm talking.
You don't zone out though? You can process talking to me and listening to that, or is it like an osmosis?
Well, if I was talking to you while doing it, of course I would miss parts of it. But when I commute or when I work out, if I'm doing a 20-minute rowing session, I'm going to listen to a book.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I listen to podcasts
when I'm doing that. When I wash dishes, when I mow the yard, I'm listening to a book.
So
I have a big saying. It's never let your entertainment be more than your education. So I try to accumulate learning. You know how there's so much stuff to learn. There's not enough time.
Yeah. Does that madden you?
I mean, it doesn't. It actually, it makes me so happy. I'm never going to run out of books to read, and I'm never going to run out of stuff that I don't know that this life's going to get less interesting.
Because it's not going to get less interesting.
The more you know, the less you know. It's fantastic.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right about that.
It
opens up a whole new world that you never knew that breathe. We were just talking about breathing. Who knew breathing was actually scientific?
Door after door after door, and you're like, God, I'm never gonna be disinterested in life because it's gonna be so crazy the stuff you learn.
You're right. Have you ever watched that show Bar Rescue?
Mm-mm.
Okay, it's a show where a guy named John Taffer walks into a bar and they're failing, and he puts them through. It's kind of like he just saves the bar, right? But he showed this one thing about he had these two beer things, and then it's called the paper towel test. If I don't explain this well, please look it up. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. But anyway, there is a science to pouring a beer, and I always thought you don't want beer with any head, because you're losing beer. You don't want that. And that's not true. That inch of head actually releases all this gas. It releases the taste and the aroma.
The aeration.
Yeah. And if you drink a beer that has a good inch of head, and I know a lot of people are going to make fun of this and cut this up when they're listening to this. But anyway.
Foam head.
Yeah. Foam head of a beer glass. That... If you ever have a beer where after that beer you feel bloated, it was because you didn't release the gas and they didn't pour the perfect pour for you.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that, but that's why I'm piggybacking off of there's so much to learn that you didn't even know you needed to learn about.
That's the thing. If you think about all the stuff that you think you know, what the fuck do you actually know about
that's
it?
true. Yeah.
You don't really know anything. All you know is the end stuff. You're like beer. You're like, all I know is that beer tastes good.
Yeah.
How the fuck was that made? You ever made beer? You ever
poured
beer?
I think about that stuff all the time.
Have you ever tried to pressurize it in a keg? You don't know a damn thing about it.
What boggles my mind is just recovery. All of the science that goes into that. Who thought of that one time? Who thought of, hey, that thing that foamy thing, I'm going to roll on that. Yeah.
Somebody was stepping on someone else's leg.
That
and they
stuff
were
blows my mind all the time. How did they come up with the idea of a car? How did they do that? How did they know that this was the engine or this is how you make an engine?
Yeah.
That stuff escapes me all the time.
Yeah, that blows my mind with things even just chocolate. I'm like, who the fuck invented chocolate?
Yeah. You're right.
How many iterations did you have to go through before this tasted good?
It tasted good.
And you kept failing.
That's
and thought,
true.
Someday I'm gonna
That's
get there.
That's a good point when we're talking about that 1% or that failing. I'm sure because I've had chocolate that has no sugar in it. It is the worst tasting stuff in the world. Whoever thought of, I wonder if I add a little bit of sugar to this.
I bet if I added this and some milk too, maybe.
Yeah.
There's so many things like that. The whole world is run by people that are really no smarter than you and I. it's just taken fucking forever for us to keep failing together, and it gets one thing after another better and better. Yeah. And you're like, oh, there's a toaster. Oh, an upside down ketchup bottle. Yeah. Cool.
You know what's funny? You've made me think positively about the future. Just talking with you right now, because
that's you should be, man. Like,
yeah, but for it's my own fault, because everything you see is like, you know, oh, Trump's ruining the world, or ruining the United States. Everything's screwed up. People left wing are attacking right wing. Like, nobody's getting along. There's transgenders now. There's guys that are competing because they think they're a girl for an hour and a half, and they're competing in the women's division. And, you know, it seems like this world is going absolutely fucking nuts, and you're like, it's gonna break one day. It's gonna break, absolutely explode, and we're all gonna fall down. But we're not.
But it's like in all those things too. Here's what you think about. When you see things on TV or Instagram or Facebook, and you're like, you're personally sort of still disassociated with it.
Yeah.
Or traffic.
Yeah.
Somebody cuts you off in traffic, and you're like, fuck that person. You give them the finger.
Yeah.
If you literally had to get out of your car, and that person had to get out of your car,
and talk about it,
the dickness level would go down 90% immediately, because you have to be face to face. So what you remember is, if you met Trump in person, you might not like him, but you would be 90% less violent or an asshole.
I agree, absolutely.
Or if you met, I don't know, Bruce Jenner, who started this whole thing for the man identifier, age, whatever you want to call it. If you met these people, it wouldn't matter to you, because most people don't want to physically hurt or be the cause of grief or discomfort for other people. If you remember that, you can't be anything but positive. When have you ever intentionally tried to fuck someone's life up? Yeah. It doesn't happen.
Yeah,
They're not doing it to you either. We all are just trying to get through this fucking thing together. You know what I mean? And it's hard to remember that every day. It's hard for me to remember that. Like, when I'm in traffic and 3 people run the red light to turn left when I got a green.
Right.
You know, it's hard to remember that. People aren't. They are being selfish, but they're not doing it because they want to fuck you over. They're doing it because, like, they're in pain, and, like, they're in a hurry, and shit's getting real, and, like, they're just fearful and anxious about the future. When you don't have to be, you're always going to be in control of yourself. Whether you're in control of your circumstances or not, shit happens. But you literally have to be confident enough in yourself and, like, your intelligence or your physical capability that you'll get through it. Or the people that love you will help you get through it. You're not alone. Even people who don't fucking know you sometimes will help you get through it, because they don't like to see people suffer. Neither do you. We're not that different. You're gonna be okay. Your monkey mind is always like, shit, panic. When in reality, there's very few things you really need to panic about. Like, maybe being on an airplane that's headed toward the ocean. Okay, time to panic. Like, get your shit together and, like, brace for impact.
Right.
But, like, you know, your morning commute or this stupid CrossFit workout you hate, you're going to be in the middle of that thing anyway, and you're going to be like, I'm going to get fucking through this.
Right.
So just calm the fuck down and get through it. And know that everybody you've accumulated in your life and you've been nice to is going to help you too. Yeah. So, like, you have to, like, create this. Like, this is why I don't like divisive things like politics or religion necessarily. They provide comfort for some people, but they also provide, you know, especially when you consume media or, I mean, those things are meant to be sensational and create emotional reactions, which is exactly what we're really trying to avoid. But we let ourselves get sucked into those traps because we're stupid, you know, and because sometimes we're a little bored and we get caught into it. But in reality, like, things aren't that bad. Like, on your day-to-day basis, like, what's really that dramatic?
Oh, yeah, I think we're living in, you know, as crazy as the world seems, I think we are absolutely living in the best time period. Like, we're okay.
And even situationally, like, if you're talking about, like, environment or government, like, you know what you can do? Start with yourself, and then start at home, and, like, get shit right at home, and then get shit right with your circle of friends, and then get shit right with your CrossFit gym or whatever you care about,
Mm-hmm.
and just your city. Like, start there. Don't try to fucking tackle world peace. Don't try to tackle, that huge plastic island we have in the ocean. Like, fucking stop using like plastic bags at the grocery store, and like, don't let Jewel double bag every milk container they ever see. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Make it the small change 1 trillion times over, and we'll fucking get there.
Yeah. Look for that 1% in your life.
And yeah,
right.
Everything.
I think that's brilliant. I think that's a good place to end this.
Cool.
I think, dude, I'm so happy I got to sit down and talk with you. I had a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was fun.
Brodie, where can people find you if they want to?
So I used to be in a Rosti doc. Both my Rosti clinics are actually just closed down. I'm going to build a couple clinics for myself now. So I'll be under a name called Total Fascia Nation.
Cool.
Where I'll also be doing soft tissue work, rehabilitative type exercise for acute injuries. I'll be doing, mostly for my exercisers, CrossFitters, people who like to move. I'll be doing movement assessments and corrective exercise programming, as well as nutrition coaching for basic nutrition stuff, but also functional nutrition testing through like blood work, saliva, hair type of analysis.
That's awesome. So I think I'm gonna be one of your clients.
So we can. That's really cool. You can figure out a lot of the nutrient and vitamin and mineral deficiencies where, even if you have some weird, like say you have like psoriasis or diabetes, like you can find the nutrient, vitamin, mineral deficiencies where we're not going to say like it cures anything, right? But you're certainly going to put your physiology in a fantastic state of being to let your body's natural healing do it. Because that's really what we're talking about with recovery.
Yeah,
your
awesome.
body, you're the most awesome fucking robot, self-generating robot anyone could ever invent. We're trying to invent robots.
Yeah.
We're trying to invent robots and all this cool cyborgs.
We're right here.
I mean, you're this living, breathing, wetware thing run off electricity that self-regenerates. You're the coolest fucking robot there is. So what we're really trying to do is put this physiology in the best state it can to self-regenerate. And that's with nutrition. That's with rest. That's with adaptogenic vitamin supplement. Really what you're doing. So unless you're doing this blood analysis or salivary analysis or hair analysis, you're fucking guessing. You making educated guesses sometimes, but until when you have a printout of like, oh, I'm in the red, I'm in the yellow, I'm in the green, you don't really know. So that's what I'm going to try to bring to people.
Sounds super cool. I'm in.
Cool.
I'll get all of my information.
You can do a little Johnny Angel experiment on yourself.
There we go. Yeah. Okay, so that's it, folks. Thank you for for watching. Brodie, honest to God, thank you. This was so much fun.
No problem. My pleasure.
Have a good one.
Stay well, peeps.
Take care. I gotta move this over. I'm so used to this.